Oh, boy. Lord help me.
You're streaming to YouTube.
Oh.
Hi, YouTube. Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. Okay, Winnie, YouTube is more befores and more afters, so we don't have to start recording our episode yet.
Okay.
We can continue casually talking and sweating.
All right. Perfect.
That's why I have sleeveless.
It's my dream. I should have gone sleeveless.
Everyone knows. They're like, oh, Josie's wearing sleeveless. It must be because she's sweaty, not because it's nice out. Like, it has nothing to do with outside temperature. All throughout winter, I was like, tank tops, please.
Of course. Of course. Well,
But turtleneck makes it seasonally appropriate.
yeah. It'd be
This is
seasonally
kinda more
appropriate
fall.
anyway.
This is like a split pea soup color. It's very fall.
It's like a sage.
But Josie doesn't care about fashion. I was telling Jenna, my last podcast recording, it was this photographer, Savannah. She's super cute. And I was telling Jenna that the reason why it's so easy to podcast is it's like stuff that we know about, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, but if we were talking about fashion, then I'd be like, and so what are mules? Like, I have to like start with like the basics. A mule is like a horrible example. It's not really like a basic. Be like,
Not a
and
basic
what
at
are
all.
shorts? Is there like a prescribed length for shorts? And like
Short, jort, you know. I mean, mix it together. Skort. Yeah. I mean,
oh man. My mom, sorry mom, if you're listening to this, still has a pair of those, I'm sure. Oh my god. She wears them gardening.
oh, yes.
I'm picturing it in my mind because I don't live with my mom anymore,
Yeah.
so I have to assume that she still has them in her wardrobe.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, those are embarrassing. Okay, let's start the episode. Winnie, would you like to start with a short, formal disclaimer about this
Sure.
episode?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
thrilled to be here. Any time spent with you is wonderful. As a lawyer, we're going to be talking about a ton of legal stuff today.
All fun.
All fun, I promise. Nothing too boring. But nothing that I say can be taken as legal advice just because I don't know anybody's particular situation. So it'll be generally educational and happy to talk with anybody about their specifics, but nothing can be actually legal advice today.
Right. So maybe don't go to the court of law with this episode.
Yes. Please don't. Please don't do that.
All right. So this episode, we are actually going to focus all on contracts as it pertains to the bride and groom's perspective. So
Okay.
you're a bride, you're a groom, you're getting married, you're paying people for stuff, and you would like to have a wedding contract. Winnie, why is a contract with wedding vendors important?
Great question. Great question.
Thanks. I wrote it myself.
I love it. I love it. Not throwing me curveballs yet. I appreciate that. So just a little quick bit. I've been a bride. I've also been a wedding planner for a few years. And so I've seen
It all.
yes. I've seen it all, literally. And so really why it's important as a bride and groom to have a contract, there are a number of reasons. First of all, there's always tons of verbal conversations that happen when you're planning a wedding, as I'm sure you know.
I know.
Yes.
Or text.
Yes,
Or
tons
quick
of
little
text.
email.
Yes. And so getting those all on paper, it helps you avoid ambiguities. It sets out the expectations for both parties. I think that as a bride or groom, you can get so caught up in everything that's happening and so excited, and you think that you know what a vendor should give to you based on movies like J-Lo's The Wedding Planner, you know. And
I mention J-Lo all the time.
I do too, because that girl went above and beyond in that movie.
That's
for
pretty
sure.
much like a personal assistant
It
who
is.
happens to be an expert at weddings.
Yes, it's true.
And
it's
famous.
true. Yes, and so
And hot.
hot, yeah, all of the things with perfect shoes.
Potentially a great singer.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Good hips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good skin tone, all of it.
Girl
all of it.
Crush Monday. Whatever.
Yes, I love it. Except it's Wednesday-ish.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Someone's listening to this on a Monday.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so really kind of avoiding those things. Also holding each other accountable, is from a bride-groom perspective, your vendor is not going to just be working on your wedding unless you are giving them a ton of money. And so
they only take one wedding at a time, like a brand designer.
Yes.
Like I only take one client at a time.
Right.
But I charge you.
Yes, for all the clients. Yeah, so I think that, holding your vendors accountable as well. But remembering to grant them a little bit of grace because planning a wedding is chaotic even for your vendors. And ultimately, another really, really important part is with Pinterest, with Instagram, with, blogs, all of these things, everybody comes up with a vision for what they want for their wedding. And ultimately, your vision is in your head. And unless you can actually get something on paper, no two people's visions are going to align. And so getting those things kind of in writing, your color scheme, the floral that you like, the floral that you absolutely hate. For example, in my wedding, they dared to put a spider mom in my bouquet. And I was like...
For me, it would be carnations.
Yeah.
No.
Right? It's just like...
Button mums,
no
fine.
way. Yeah.
Spider mums, I kill you.
It's just terrible, And it was like... Oh, God, well, I didn't list the spider mom as a no-go. So really just getting those things there. It'll just help keep blood pressure down all around and make the planning process easier.
Okay, so what should a contract absolutely include for the most common contracts would be like for your venue, your photographer, your caterer. What should it absolutely have?
Quite a few things.
Yes, I agree.
I mean... If somebody gives you a contract that's like...
1 page long.
Yeah. Yes.
I provide services. You get services. Sign.
Yeah. The price is... Not great. So, of course, the details of your event, including arrival time, departure time, if there's going to be extra setup, if there's going to be tear down, how many people are going to be there as part of the team. Pricing and invoice structure is really important to get those things so that you can plan ahead as a bride and groom because ultimately you're going to be writing a lot of checks at once and it's going to make you sweat a little bit, And so having that expectation at the outset is a really good thing. Detailed description of the services. Now, on the flip side, I would tell vendors, especially wedding planners in particular, not to put literally every single thing in the contract because it can get you into a bit of a pickle.
Like, I'm going to pass out tips and I'm also going to, bring your dress to the venue and I'm going to help you hand calligraphy your invitations. And when maybe I have done that before for a client.
Yes.
But maybe I don't want to do it for every client.
I don't want to do it every single time. Yes. But you do want to look for at least some semblance of the outline of the services. Really, really important is refund and cancellation policy. Almost no wedding vendor, at least no wedding vendor that I work with, has anything but a non-refundable deposit.
Yes.
But it is really important to look at, what the deposit language is like. A lot of people have asked me what's the difference between a deposit and a retainer. Not really a huge difference as far as you're concerned as a bride or groom.
Right.
So looking at that, looking at cancellation, if anything can be refunded, contingency plans. Huge one for weather.
Like inclement weather.
Yes. Weather changes. A flower isn't available. I was talking with a florist the other day because I am still planning a wedding. I am.
Wynne's not for hire for weddings, except for this one person.
But we were talking about, oh gosh, this is in the middle of July. It's going to be really hot. If this flower comes in and it's wilted, it's not going to be able to happen. So those types of things.
And you want to have flexibility, brides and grooms, when you are talking with your florist, that they will make their best professional judgment choice for which flower to use for your specific day. Because remember last year and there was all that Zika stuff and then the ports were closed. Yeah. And so a lot of flowers come in from Florida or through Florida ports. So they were closed. They were like, hell no, you ain't passing Zika around to people. Right. So flowers were not available because they literally could not get them to the United States.
It's true. And while we're on flowers, if you or anybody in your wedding party has allergies, super important, because on your wedding day, bride or groom or anybody in your wedding party, or, you know, heaven forbid, one of the parents is to break out in massive hives all over their body because they're allergic to a flower that was put in there, you want to make sure that your allergies are covered in the contract. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So would that be like the vendor?
The vendor should ask that, but
yes. Okay.
Yeah, they should ask that. But if they don't ask that, and you know you have an allergy, tell them. Tell them. Please tell them.
Communication is key.
Yes, it is. So key. A few other things. Who has the authority to make decisions with regards to the contract? So often, you know, a parent will be paying even though the contract is between, you know, the couple and the vendor. And then the parent will get upset about something and try to come after them.
Right.
Alternately, you have a parent who is a little overbearing and thinks that, you know, the paper should be a different weight or something. And then they get mixed into the, you know, conversations, and it could just, you know, it really throws your vendors off, and you want to keep your vendors happy.
Yes.
For photography and videography, really crucial to address intellectual property.
Yes.
Really, really crucial. And artistic release. First of all, yes. So first of all, with artistic release, here's the deal, guys. Pinterest is a compilation of a bunch of stuff that's out there. But guess what? Getting that perfect silhouette picture in front of a window is not easy to do, even for the best photographers.
Right.
It could look blown out. That's not their fault. So what you really need to do is find a photographer or videographer who you love their work, but recognize that your work is not going to be identical to that.
Your wedding is unique.
It is. You are unique. You know, you
aren't
unique.
that person in the photo.
Completely.
Neither is your, like, for me, Brian is not like a photo selfie happy person, right? Like, he's not like, oh my God, let's take a picture. Like, I don't know if he's ever said that to me in my life. So for him, the idea of like all these photos for hours and hours is completely disinteresting.
Yeah.
And if it was something that I was like, this is very meaningful to me, he would do it. He'd also chop off his right arm if I was like, this is really meaningful to me. Kind of the same, right?
Sure. Why not? Yeah. I mean, apples and oranges, you know, it's all the same. No, but that's a really important one. You know, we get a lot of clients who are like, oh, I didn't like that angle. I didn't like that shot of my dress. And it's like, you gotta grant this person on the other side of the camera, you know, a little bit of leeway. They are a human being who is participating in their form of art, and nothing is going to be identical. Intellectual property ownership. I would go as far as to say, in a very...
I just had to lower my chair. I had to do it.
In a very, very rare case, are you going to get a photographer or videographer who is literally giving you the exclusive ownership rights, the copyright ownership to what they create? What you are buying from them is a license to use the photos or the images. And I understand, or the photos or the footage. And I understand that for those people who aren't readily involved with photographers and videographers, they don't really get that.
I don't get it.
Yeah. They're like, I don't get it. They're like, why am I paying thousands of dollars if I don't own these images?
Right, because you didn't take them.
Right. Exactly.
So there's that.
There's that part of it, you know? Yeah.
It's not a painting. It's not like, oh, Picasso painted this and I bought it for $5 million. I own it.
Completely.
Different.
And if you want exclusive ownership, it's just going to be a different price tag that you're just going to have to address with them. So if that's something that's really incredibly important to you as a bride or groom, that is something that you should think about on the front end.
But what's even the difference between like a license to use, like I can print these, I can pass them out to my friends and family, and like I own this so I can alter the images?
Yeah. So technically, like if you own it, you could prevent the creator of putting it anywhere, of putting it on social media, of submitting it to a blog. You wouldn't have to give them credit for it. You could, they couldn't resell the photo in some type of, photo exhibit. Rarely, I don't know if ever, a photographer would sell a photo of a bride and groom. But for example, like I was married in Banff, and, Carly took some amazing photos of the mountains, and those probably could sell to people that live out there, and she should be able to do that. So you essentially are buying all rights away from the photographer.
People who would do that are famous.
Yeah.
And have issues with privacy and being a public figure.
100%.
So, like, if President Obama had a vow renewal. Former president. Sorry.
Well.
Forever in my heart.
Always.
Then maybe he would be like, I would like to buy the right to own these
the photos. Yes. Yep. And if that is something that you're interested in, you should expect to pay exponentially more. It is different.
Yes. Exponentially. Do we all remember what that means? X squared.
Quite a bit
X
more.
To the
Quite a bit
power.
more. One thing you'll see in a number of your contracts is that you are accountable for both you and your guests with regards to model release.
Okay.
Saying that you are granting us permission to take pictures of you and all of your guests.
Right.
That language technically isn't enforceable against anybody else who is
not signing it.
Not signing the contract.
So if your Aunt Harriet is like, I don't want my image used anywhere, that's fine that you took it, and just the two of you, happy new couple, can look at me, like with my mouth full of food. No one else can? Is that like a scenario?
Yeah. And it's kind of, there's always a gray line of like, a wedding is typically a private event, but if you're in a public space, there is that kind of gray line. And in those cases, though, I would advise a photographer and a videographer, like, hey, is it really worth it? Like, just take down the picture of Aunt Harriet, you know?
Or I think, don't you think, or haven't you seen photographers go around when they're doing like cocktail hour pictures being like, do you want me to take your picture or can I take your picture?
Yeah.
Before they just snap it.
Start snapping. Yeah.
That's a different like kind of event.
Yeah.
Right? Than just your chill casual wedding.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like a little more black tie affair.
Yeah.
Like when we're thinking about just in general demographics.
Yes. For sure. There's a huge range when it comes to weddings, most certainly. And I think that comes down to kind of photographer preference, to be honest.
Well, because it's your butt. We'll cover that in a later episode.
Yes. We'll get at you, photographers. We'll get at you.
I was just watching Sopranos, and there's like the wedding scene, and there's like photographers taking pictures, and like there's the one mob boss, and he takes a picture of him, and he just glances at his guy, and the guy goes over and takes the camera and hands it to him. He like rips out the tape, crumples it, and throws the camera down. That's what I do at weddings. I'm like, I didn't give you permission. Rip out the tape. There's no tape. Like, also it's called film, but
no way. You're like right up there in front of it, just voguing for the camera.
Yes, with my scarf turban.
Yes.
If you've never seen that photo, I'm pretty sure it's on the show notes.
I love it.
Scarf turbans.
I love it. A few other ones kind of to think about for stationers, for your stationery, if you're going to work through a stationer instead of like a online, like
Minted, Dazzle.
Also looking at IP ownership, intellectual property ownership, a lot of times you will have a logo created for your wedding. Same type of thing. Do you own it? Do they own it? Are they just licensing it to you? Can you use it to go print at other places? More often than not, it's just going to be a different pricing structure. If you're going to use them to print, one price. If you're going to go somewhere else, another price. All of your caterers, cake, dessert people, bartenders, allergies. Huge thing. You really want to make sure that is addressed in your contract. And then there are about 10 legal clauses that are a little too boring to talk about, but they are really important, especially governing law. making sure that your governing law says whatever state you are located in, so that you don't have to go and fight a vendor in another state if something happens.
Yes. And if you are a Sixpence client, then you know all of those things because I review the contract with you in person in the friendliest manner possible.
Which is perfect. I mean, if everybody did that,
everybody should,
there'd be like no lawsuits.
Because then you understand that your DJ requires a meal.
Yeah.
It's right in your contract.
Yeah.
I promise you. Like, if you are listening to this and you're like, I don't think so, go look at your DJ contract.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, it is there.
It is.
And they will not be happy if you don't provide them with a meal.
They will not. They will not.
They will play chicken dance on repeat.
Yeah, 100%. And guys, like if you're going to do vendor meals, which you should do vendor meals, make them decent vendor meals.
Yes.
Just from my wedding planning days, you know, like don't do like some stale cold chicken sandwich. Like, dude, it doesn't have to be like a filet steak, but like give them something that's worth it, because most of your vendors are there for 6+ hours working really hard. And
how weird to watch everyone else eat food. And then after dinner, they're like, oh my gosh, that salmon was so good.
Yeah.
And you're like, awesome.
Awesome. I
had crackers.
Yeah.
I think they were
Saltines.
from the airplane.
And a little fruit cup with some juice in it. Or, you know, like just order them a pizza even. Like a pizza is better than many of the meals
Jimmy John
that I've
sandwiches.
eaten. Yeah. So.
Holler.
Yeah.
I've never had a bad vendor meal.
Oh, girl, you are lucky.
I'm never going to, because all my clients
they
listen
understand.
to the podcast
They
and
understand.
they're like, oh, I don't want to be Josie's first bad vendor meal.
Right.
Because she'll probably talk about
Take
it on the
note,
podcast.
clients. Take notes. No, it is really disappointing, especially as a wedding planner, to be on your feet for 10 hours and to be handed like an apple and a cookie. is bad.
Thanks. This helps my diabetes.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. And anything else on the absolutely must have in your contract?
No, I don't think so. No. And I think the next question kind of addresses the same thing.
Yes. Because what are things that you should get in writing if you don't see it in the contract? In other words, don't get married without
kind of everything I just said.
Yes. And personal story.
Yeah.
I had a bride that came to me with a photographer's contract, and it didn't say who owned the images.
Yeah.
It also didn't say like turnaround time for when they could expect to get the images back by.
Yeah.
It also didn't say coverage, like how long were they going to be at the wedding for.
Oh.
I know. These are like
really fundamental things.
Not red flags.
Right.
Fine photographer, but red flags when it comes to a contract, because then there's no expectations set. So now the bride and groom are just thinking like, oh, our photographer, we're just assuming they're full day.
Yeah.
They'll be there the whole day from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed.
Yeah.
And we get to own our images, don't we? And won't they give them back to us like in a week? Because that's like how long our engagement photos took. So that is, you're in for a hurtin' if you don't have those expectations set beforehand.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. How would you know?
No.
Hello? You've never got married before. And even if you have, do you really remember 10 years ago when you got married and like what the stipulations are? 10 years ago, if you got married, that's like probably there was like 4 wedding contracts that existed in the whole world.
That is very true.
And it was the venue and the caterer.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, with photographers and with the expectation of timing. I mean, here's the deal. If you get married on, I don't know, like
June 6th.
Yeah, June 6th versus December 1st.
In the Midwest.
In the Midwest.
If you get married in December in Arizona,
and maybe
same thing as June 6th.
Yes. It is.
Same exact weather.
Yeah. But like June is like smack in the middle of wedding season in the Midwest, and it's probably going to take your photographer a little bit longer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, this is a caveat that photographers nowadays edit their images.
Yeah.
They edit them. Mm-hmm. They edit them. Mm-hmm. They edit them. They do not like just put them on Instagram and then add a filter. That's not what they do at all.
Not even close.
If you have ever heard of Jenna Kutcher, you know that's how she does.
That is true. Yeah.
Yes.
Not even close. And you don't get to see every single photo that was taken at
Hallelujah. Like you don't want to see them.
There are some rough photos that are taken and you just don't get them because that just isn't how it works. So, you know, it's
and don't ask for them. Silly.
Right.
Don't.
You don't want to see them.
Because maybe you're a photographer also and you're like, but
yeah,
I could edit them. What? It's your wedding. Yeah. Are you also doing your own hair and baking your own cake?
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah. Making all your food, you're bartending yourself. You're even spinning for yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a good picture, though.
Yeah.
This would be a great styled shoot if anyone wants to take the idea.
Some fun new venues out there for that.
Okay, so what if a vendor is telling me as a bride or a groom that they don't do contracts? What should I do? Like, what if it's a restaurant? This has happened. And they're like, no contract, just pay us on the day of in cash, small bills. And then what if my friend is, like, the photographer, but they don't have, like, an LLC, so they're just, like, doing it? Or what if my aunt is, like, doing the flowers? They're different scenarios.
They are different scenarios.
So into one question.
Perfect. So general question is, if there's no contract, what then? Choose another vendor. No, but in all seriousness, it is really, really incredibly important. Yes, like I know, like a family or friend may be different, but guys, it is not different. Get something in writing. I can't even tell you how many times this year we have had to deal with the fact that a friend was doing the photography or a friend was doing the catering, and it turns into this absolute mess of a situation.
Nightmare.
A nightmare.
Your friend catering is like, well, I don't have, like, plates.
Yeah.
So you have to rent your own plates. And you're like, what?
Totally.
You're catering. How do you not have plates?
Totally. Or you end up with a situation where it's like, okay, you have this, like, friend of the family who's catering, and guess what? They've never catered this type of, you know, wedding before.
You got to get them that food out.
Yeah, and they don't get that, and the food ends up being 3 hours behind, so the parents get
Were
pissed
you at that
off.
wedding with me?
I was not. I was not, but it has happened. Parents get pissed off, and then they go after, like, the wedding planner, like, for not holding the timeline. And it's like, are you kidding? But because there's no contract in place with the caterer and their friends, it's like,
and
let's
hopefully
pick
that
on
wedding
someone
planner
else.
Had it in their contract, but they're not responsible for other wedding vendors' performances.
Yes, yeah, of course. Make note if that's not in your contract, vendors. Let's chat.
Episode 28.
Yes,
Episode 28.
Yeah. But that is something that's incredibly important. I've seen it happen many times, and you know, the food examples happened. Another situation that I've seen happen is a photographer, their friend was second shooting for them. And after the wedding, they didn't have an agreement together because they were really good friends. And after the wedding, there was a falling out. And the friend decided not to give the photographer any of the images from the wedding and go and try to start their own photography business with the images, and the client never even got any of the images.
No.
Yeah. And because there's no contract with that contractor, the second shooter.
Right.
I mean, you as the client could sue the photographer, but do you really want to do that if the photographer themselves was really great to you? You know, I mean, it's a really sticky situation. And so even with friends, you know, it's for both of your protection.
Right.
It's for theirs as much as it is for yours. And if they are a really good friend or a family member, they'll understand that this is an incredibly important day.
Right.
And they will appreciate that there are some parameters outlined.
I'm trying to think of, like, okay, yeah, but Winnie, what if my brother is officiating and he just finished missionary school or officiating school?
Officiating school, or just got licensed online like I've done?
No, like actually went to school.
Oh, went to school for
so
it. Oh, okay.
that's what his job is going to be.
Yeah.
Then it'd be like, oh, well, I'm just going to answer it for you. Then it'd be like, oh, well, he should get a contract because then that's going to be his, like, business. So then it'd be like a good first step, and maybe you pay for it as, like, how you're repaying him for officiating your wedding.
Yep. You could definitely do that. I mean, the other example is like, okay, like brother just finished school and he's going to do this. Ugh, something else came up. He's actually not going to be there. Now you're not married.
Now what?
You don't get married then. Is that?
That's okay. You can fake it. You can just go to the courthouse.
Yeah.
It won't be as romantic and it will be really stressful, but you can still get married.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think the officiant situation, it is a little bit. That's maybe one where you could wiggle a little bit because a lot of people have friends and family members officiate.
And because your wedding ceremony is not what makes your wedding legal.
Right.
It's like 8 sentences and signing a paper.
Totally. Yeah. But the things that are like really, you know, like you're investing a lot of money
your
in.
venue.
Yeah.
Your venue. If your venue's like, we don't do contracts,
Go elsewhere. Go elsewhere. Yeah, I can't say that enough. Yeah, I think it's wherever you're really investing a lot of money. A lot of officiants just do it to be nice. I mean, I fired my officiant the day before my wedding.
No, you didn't.
I did. I did. And then I asked my godfather to step in and to read the script I wrote. Yeah. Well, I got married in Canada, and they were like, hey, we can't read what you wrote because we have a script here, but you can have somebody else stand up and do it. By the way, we did double book your day, but like the ceremonies are far enough apart that we'll just like walk over afterwards if we just bump your wedding back a little bit.
What?
I was like,
that's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
I already wrote my vows.
You're done.
You dummy.
Yeah.
I don't even need you.
We're done. And so I
was my
like,
deposit.
Yeah. I marched right over to Jim's cabin and I was like, Jim, will you marry us?
We're getting married tomorrow.
Yeah, it'd be really great. It'd be really great if you could step up for me right now.
That's a good godfather.
Yeah, yeah.
So you like my Sopranos example?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It's a great godfather.
Yeah, a really good godfather. He diverted a little bit from the script that I wrote and added his own stuff in there. But yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Is he 50 plus? Is that?
He is.
That's why.
And a lawyer. So
he's hilarious.
It was gonna happen. It was gonna happen. But no, those are. I do think anywhere where you're investing money, where you feel like it's really going to make or break your day.
Right.
That's important. You need a contract.
I like that caveat because let's say like Aunt Sharon is making your cake, or making like a kransekaka, but you actually have another cake. If that kransekaka like didn't make it,
right?
Maybe it depends on how Norwegian you are, but you still get married, and actually you can still have kids, like regardless of if you pull up the rings.
Totally.
Okay, good. Yeah. So next, I would like to ask you, my dear Wynne, what? These are like specific questions about contracts. So if you're a bride or a groom listening and you pulled up your contracts and you're kind of preening through it, maybe you, like I was once in my life, are wondering what the hell is a limitation of liability and what should I do for dispute resolution?
Yeah. Yeah, so those are both some of those 10 legal clauses that I said are really important. So limitation of liability, it should be in every vendor contract. It really is in there to protect the vendor. It's essentially if something is to go wrong, that, it kind of, you can't end up with one of those crazy astronomical lawsuits that we've seen where it's like, my dress didn't, turn out the right
It didn't
color.
flow in the wind like I wanted it to.
Didn't flow in the wind, or my cake didn't get there. I'm going to have to redo my entire wedding and fly my whole wedding party up here, and it's going to cost $300,000. So
I'm suing you for $300,000.
I'm suing you for $300,000. Yeah, which it is nutty. It happens. We had a photographer situation about a year and a half ago where they thought that the images were blown out and they didn't like how the bride looked in her dress, and so they threatened to sue for an entire redo. Yeah.
I'm like totally speechless. They didn't like how the bride looked in her dress.
Yeah.
I hope you are female. You're listening right now and you're like, if I don't look good in my dress, it's probably on me.
Yeah. Right?
And not on someone taking pictures of me.
Right. I mean, everybody has a bad angle, but like,
what do you do?
Everyone has a bad angle.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can do to fix
this
that.
isn't Willy Wonka. We can't put you in the like shrink machine.
Right. And you can't
show up
expect
smaller on TV.
Completely. You can't expect a photographer to like nip and tuck every image either. Like, then it's not you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but that is kind of in there, and usually you'll see it limited to whatever the cost is paid for under the contract. There are of course situations. It'll also usually say absent like negligent conduct, or
I always say if I kill someone, that's different.
Yeah, right. Or intent. Like if you're just like a demon bride, and you are just being evil to me, and I take my pizza and I just all over your dress, and I just am like done. I'm done with you. That was probably an intentional act on my part, and you might be able to come after me for a little bit more. But
if I accidentally stepped on a rake, and on the tip of that rake was a pizza, and it flung it across the room, and it hit the corner tip of your train.
Yeah,
trail.
train. Yeah, train. Yep.
Then maybe that's not on purpose.
Right. Or if you're like, walking through the massive crowd on the dance floor trying to get drinks to somebody. Yeah. And, somebody trips you or like you get stepped on and you trip and fall on the dress. It's an accident, that's where those protections are in there because emotions can be so heightened during weddings that the idea of, getting a little bit out of control and demanding really large amounts of money is a very realistic thing that happens. So if you see that in your contract, any vendor with a good lawyer is going to say that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But at least you know what it means.
Yeah. Like if a bride or groom is like, well, we don't want this in here. It's like,
right. I would probably. Totally. I would tell the vendor, if I were their lawyer, I'd be like.
Tough tits, dude. That's
that
protecting
that couple's
everyone.
not worth it. Yeah.
Small, short digression, I swear. My bride last weekend, her dress got ripped because people stepped on it. This happens a lot,
all the time.
brides. And also, it wasn't like the kind of dress that you could really bustle, which maybe was part of it. And maybe Genmar would be like, that's wrong, but that's what they said. But it was like ripped and it was like hanging down. Oh. So she had me cut the tool. She was like, can you just rip this off? And I was like, well, I have my leathering. Can I cut it? And she was like, yes. And so I was like cutting her dress on the dance floor. Yeah. It's just a new experience for me. I never had done it before.
Yeah. And I mean, in that situation, especially if the bride is like,
cut it
intoxicated or something, I might just shoot them a text and say,
remember,
hey, just an FYI, I just cut your dress at your request, so that they don't wake up the next morning and they're like, what?
She's probably not back from Italy yet. I'm going to send her that text right now.
Yeah, do it. Send that text.
Remember when you gave me permission to cut your dress?
Yeah, it's true. Dispute resolution. This one is really important for both parties.
Okay.
Look for the language in there. If it says arbitration, just
maybe don't hire Xfinity to be your DJ.
Yeah. I mean, people think, so first of all, because I realize these are legal terms. Okay, so mediation. Yeah. What's arbitration? Okay, so mediation is where you go into a room with a mediator and neutral. Like I'm a neutral, for example. You go into a room with me and you have the two parties and you try to resolve it.
Like divorce court.
Yes. Like
can you talk it out and who's going to have custody of the kids? And do you have to stand before a lawyer? No. Go to mediation.
Right. And mediation is not something where the person listening, me, comes to a binding decision about the matter. I just try to help you guys resolve this to avoid the really, large expenses associated with litigation. Going into arbitration, the neutral, me, makes the decision. I make a binding decision. I listen to both parties and I act as the judge. And I essentially
who's
say,
wearing Kate Spade? Okay, you win. Just kidding. That doesn't happen.
I feel like with me, it'd be more like yoga pants. But I'm such a casual person. But no. Neutrals are acting as judges. They don't. They're completely unbiased.
They're professional.
They're very, very professional.
It's never going to be Josie.
It won't be Josie.
Not one time ever.
Won't be. I'd love to see Josie in a mediation with me because I'd be entertained by her. But Josie won't be your mediator.
This will be a fake thing that if I ever sign up for like a Patreon account, it'll be a skit. It'll be like a fake SNL skit.
Perfect.
Starring Wynne and Josie.
We could act it out at one of my seminars. It'd be amazing. We'll have you as one of the people. But no, so with arbitration, because you have that binding thing, and now a lot of people think that arbitration, somebody makes up their mind. One, arbitration is tough to appeal if you don't like the result. Two, it's actually not that much less expensive than just fighting it in court. Most of your wedding related issues are going to be less than, $15,000 or $17,000, which is, what is included in conciliation court, which is so easy to make a claim in. District court is going to be a little bit more, but district court gives you a better chance to appeal. It also gives you the chance to talk to a jury if you are going to try to play the emotional card. And I'd beware of arbitration. I would shoot for.
Me too. I would.
Yeah. I would. No, but I shoot for mediation as the first choice, followed by courts as the second choice. Both of that can be in your dispute resolution clause.
Okay. And so that's like the scary side of I'm dissatisfied with something that happened at my wedding.
Yeah.
But let's just say that first, like maybe services were not provided. Like I wanted this wall to be draped and the wall wasn't draped.
Yep.
But I did pay for it. Like what would be like the first step that you would suggest brides and grooms take after their wedding?
After their wedding, yeah. First of all, wait till after your wedding. Actually, little story. This is a great one for me to answer because
digression from Wynne. Thought it was just going to be me.
No, a little bit from me. So, okay, you guys know I got married in Canada, but I had a party back here because my husband's family is massive and they live in Stillwater. So I did this big tent, and I, being a wedding planner, had this vision, okay, of this amazing parachute draping inside of a tent.
I can picture it.
Yeah.
I'm picturing 18 million pins.
Right.
I'm scrolling through it right now. And there's you.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So I'm out at the venue the night before because I'm a wedding planner and I'm a little anal about that stuff.
Yeah. And you had already gotten married, so it's okay that you're anal retentive.
That I was there, yes.
Because it's not like I have to get married tomorrow and this reception. It's just a reception.
Right. It's just a reception.
I approve.
So thank you. So I'm out there and I'm watching the person hang this draping.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I had ordered champagne-colored parachute draping.
Yes.
I see a petal pink strip draping happening. And I walk up to the vendor and I'm like, hey,
this is wrong.
I'm like, how? I'm like playing dumb, you know? And I'm like, hey, how much fabric does it take to drape a tent like this, you know? And she's like, a fair amount, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so for parachute draping, you know, how much fabric does it take? And she goes, oh, you don't have parachute draping. And I said, oh, no, I definitely do. I have the contract if you'd like to see it.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, you don't. They must have talked to you. You can't do parachute draping in a high-pitched tent. First of all,
wrong.
Utter BS.
Also, it's in my mother effing contract.
Right? I've already paid for it.
Yes.
So I walk away and I'm like, take a
Deep
minute,
breath.
Winnie, like chill out. You know, like it's
Go
90
smell the
degrees.
flowers.
Your spray tan is coming off. You're sweating everywhere. Just chill out. So I take a beat and I go back over there and I'm like, so just explain this to me. When did you have this conversation? Because I certainly haven't had this conversation with anyone. I've planned a number of weddings and I know that parachute draping is possible in this kind of tent. And she's just like, ugh, fine, I'll just tell you. I'm sorry, you know, the company that you're working with, they fired their drapery person, and it was only a few weeks ago, and so they called me in, and they just said to, like, do what I could do with what I had. And so here I am, and I only have enough fabric to do 8 pieces of strip draping throughout this tent. And
I don't want strip draping. That sounds disgusting.
Right?
Like tortilla strips?
Like
is this a taco
like,
party?
You know, just like pink, like, ugh, and I don't even like pink. And so it went through my mind, like, do I lose my absolute shit right now?
Yes.
Or
do it.
Instead, you know, thank God for my assistant at the time, Megan, who is a saint. Megan, if you are out there, girl,
you rock.
You are amazing. She was like, oh boy. So we got in the car and we drove to Joann Fabrics.
No, you didn't.
We did. We bought 400 yards of fabric, picked up some food from Buffalo Wild Wings, went back there and draped that frickin' tent ourselves.
No, you didn't.
We did.
Oh
we did.
Gosh.
We spent hours.
But if you are a bride or groom listening to this, you can't do that.
Don't do that.
Because you're not a wedding planner. You don't even know what parachute draping is. Did you just Google it? Because it's not on Google. You have to go to Pinterest.
Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, so that's a really great example. That was a perfect thing. So in that situation, you know, take a minute, enjoy your wedding, do your honeymoon or whatever you're going to do afterwards. And then what I would say is start by writing an email to them and just saying, hey, you know, I paid for this. This is what I got.
Right.
You know, this isn't what we agreed for.
Right.
I'm going to need a refund.
Yes. And make sure that you proof it like 18 million times and have someone neutral read it so that you don't come across like raging, because that is not going to be received well by that vendor who's already going to be sensitive if you're criticizing something they did or did not do.
Definitely.
Just say, here's the deal.
Definitely.
This, the end.
Right.
Like a children's book. Minimal emotions.
Yep.
The emotions are all in the pictures.
Yes.
So don't include pictures, but,
but
maybe do.
No, I mean, it is true. Like when, brides and grooms automatically send off these scathing emails like, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to go to news stations. I'm going to go on every review site. Don't do that because that, first of all, that's really mean. Second of all, like, that isn't the answer. That's not the way to fix it, So start with an email. If the vendor writes back and they're like, I don't really see eye to eye with you on this, blah, blah, blah.
We provided beautiful, something completely unrelated to what you're complaining about.
Right. And they'll, make some excuse. And a lot of vendors won't. A lot of vendors, if you are nice,
they'll be like,
cop
absolutely.
To it. Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm so sorry. I hope that you still had a great wedding. Yeah. Please still refer us in the future.
Yeah, totally. Most vendors will do something like that if you are nice. If you aren't, that's not going to happen. But if they don't give you a refund after that initial email, then talk to a professional. Call up a lawyer and, maybe have them, ghostwrite something a little more serious for you, and, hopefully rarely will it ever have to rise to the occasion of having to threaten a lawsuit. Do not threaten a lawsuit. Certainly do not threaten criminal allegations. Almost nothing that vendors do is criminal. Guys. So watch yourselves with that one. But yeah, I think, just starting kind of with the strong but professional approach is the way to go about it.
A nice email. Like take like the disapproving teacher perspective. I wish you had performed better on your test, but you didn't, and that's why you got an F.
Yeah.
Now give me my money back.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, But bottom line is if you pay for services that are not provided, you're not going to be paying for them ultimately.
And what if you're just plain dissatisfied? Like, I didn't like the chicken. It was overly cloved.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you put cloves on chicken?
I think that you do.
I shouldn't be cooking. And I shouldn't be a neutral arbitrator.
You can be an actor, though. You'd be really great. I feel like you could do, like, a chicken with orange and clove.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like that could be really Christmassy or
someone somewhere is Pinteresting it right now, and it's popping up.
Yeah.
And it's a face of Josie.
It's perfect.
With chicken wings.
It's perfect. Okay, yeah, so...
If you're just dissatisfied.
Yeah, if you're just not liking them. I know you're not going to want to hear this.
I want to hear it.
But if the services were provided, you should start by paying for them and then seeking relief afterwards. Because if they provided services and you don't pay for them because you didn't like them, you are then in breach of the contract.
Right.
And it can end up backfiring on you. More often than not, you could try to negotiate something. You could try to negotiate something and say, hey, I really wasn't satisfied, but you should at least pay for a good portion of the services and then deal with the dissatisfaction afterwards.
And maybe it's not like bride or groom. Maybe it's not you that's dissatisfied. Maybe it's a parents. Or an aunt or an uncle or your drunk sister who's currently now super hungover.
Yeah.
So maybe you can instead focus on the positives of the day and not the negatives, that there wasn't a dozen gluten-free dinner rolls available for them, because technically only one dinner roll comes with your meal.
Right. Totally. Or if your cake, was missing one tiny thing, Oh God, there was this issue lately, and I can discuss it generally speaking because it was on social media, and I actually am incredibly proud of the people for handling it the way that they did.
Yeah.
But it was a situation where they're driving the cake to the wedding, and the poor people were in a terrible car accident. Cake is destroyed. So the bakery decides to, in the 2 hours that they had, less than 2 hours that they had, to figure out a way to get wedding cake from another wedding cake vendor, to reconstruct a 3-tier cake, make it look nearly identical, and it was maybe missing one of the 3 or 4 different, embellishments. Drove to the accident, got the custom cake topper, got it on the cake, and still got this 3-tier cake to the wedding in time for cake cutting and serving. First of all, if you know of any bakery that is willing to go to that extent, freaking hire
They're on
them.
my preferred vendor list.
Yeah, they are like goddesses for being that on top of it. But the client was like, boo, it was missing this one flavor, so we don't want to pay you for anything.
No.
Are you kidding?
No.
Right? Like
If
that
anything,
was like
you
above
should
and
fill
beyond.
out what percentage of the cake that filling was, and then like sans that percentage from your bill.
Completely.
If anything.
Completely.
But that sounds like a waste. That sounds like you already regret being married. Sorry.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, let's remember,
Just
I say this every
angry.
episode. The best part of getting married is getting married.
Yeah.
Not your cake, not your parachute draping.
Right. Totally.
None of that stuff. It's that you get to get married.
Yeah.
And yes, you want people to deliver.
Yep.
You want them to perform.
Yeah.
But you should also be a good human being that makes this world more pleasant to live in.
Totally. Totally. 100%.
At least if you're listening to this podcast, you likely are.
Yes. Yeah, you likely are. But
You
yeah,
likely are.
totally. I mean, it's just if you're in that situation where you're dissatisfied, take a beat, think about it, figure out what you did get, and then either decide to try to negotiate a little bit or pay them and then deal with the dissatisfaction later because you really, really don't want to get sued for breaching the contract yourself.
Right.
You don't want to be a newlywed getting sued.
Right.
Yeah.
And there just are going to be things that don't go 1,000% exactly how you wanted it to. Prepare for that beforehand. Say like, this day is great. Or in the moment, this day is great. And if someone comes up and is like, the buffet's out, it's like, okay, we ate all the food. Great. Yeah. We ate for all the food we paid for.
Totally.
And then the next day, maybe don't harp on that the buffet ran out. And then next week, don't harp on it.
Yeah.
Like, just get over it.
Thankful you didn't waste.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal, brides and grooms. There will always be
little things.
Yes, little things that come up, even huge. Like I am a really type A wedding planner, as Josie knows, really type A. For my wedding, everything was planned to a T. Yeah. And let me just tell you, my assistant, who was supposed to be a guest at my wedding, was detained and deported at the Canadian border because they found my timeline in her bag and didn't believe that she was a guest.
What?
Yes. She was detained for like 6 hours despite sending all of our financials to immigration. They said, it's our choice. We're deporting her. Deported her. Okay. Then.
Which is a great story.
Yeah. Right?
Actually.
Then on the morning of my wedding, Mom disappears for a while. Mrs.
Mom
Hair
got
and
kidnapped
makeup.
and deported? No.
Mrs. Hair and makeup. And I'm like, cool. We'll just reschedule you. We'll figure it out, you know. The room that we were in at the Fairmont, which, by the way, if you ever have an opportunity to get married at the Fairmont, do it. Their service is exceptional.
Oh,
but
yay.
the room started leaking. And so one of the two connected rooms was soaked, and they had to replace the entire bed while we were getting ready in the morning. It rained and snowed in the middle of summer. We ended up having to change directions. And that was just a few of the things, guys. So even for a type A person, things go wrong. So
it's going to be okay.
Enjoy the day and enjoy the fact that you are crazy in love and you are going to remember this day for the rest of your life.
Yes. I totally and completely agree.
Yep.
So let's talk about insurance.
Yep.
Should I get it? From where and whom? And will it cover me if we call off our engagement?
It happens. It happens. We've seen it happen, I'm sure. There are a number of really great insurance providers in the Twin Cities and actually online for event-specific insurance. There really, really are. And it doesn't need to be that expensive. If you want to contact Josie, you want to contact me, we're happy to give you some names of some insurance providers. As for coverage, the point of insurance is to cover unforeseen circumstances. So if you call off your engagement,
technically,
probably not going to be covered. If something were to happen, like a horrible emergency, like a car accident, a death in the family, some tragedy, it probably will. Depending on the policy that you purchase, it probably will cover you.
Right. You're not an insurance agent, so you can't be like, yes, we will cover you.
Right. And there's policies to cover everything except for
calling off your engagement.
Yeah.
And as like a very like come to Jesus moment right now, if you're listening and you are unsure if you should get married, I don't know if you should be investing in all these vendors because like you said, that deposit is not refundable. And I've had 2 close people in my life lose a ton of money because they call off their engagement. Now, we are very grateful that they did that because if that's not a right choice for you, you shouldn't go through with it and then get a divorce. Right. Because likely you'll probably like stick with it and then have 4 kids and then get divorced. And then there's kids in the situation and jobs and a dog. But there's dogs anyways. But it's just something to think about. And I always mention that to my couples when I go over the contract. I'm like, this part says that if you call off your engagement, you don't get your money back and you have to pay me in full. So don't hire me if you don't want to get married. And then they like look at each other like, no, we love each other. You know, like, yay. Okay, sign.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is really, you know, that is really important. You know, I think if the wedding is called off for any reason other than unforeseen, probably not covered. Probably not. If it's unforeseen, it is.
If there's like a volcano in Hawaii and your venue is literally melted.
Yes.
Guess what? That's unforeseen.
That is unforeseen.
Also not your planner's fault, as it says in my contract.
It does say that in there. It does say that.
It doesn't say volcanoes. It just says like fire, flood, etc. And that's
acts of nature, acts of God, those things.
Volcanoes.
Yeah, volcanoes. Sure, why not? You know. I think as for if you should get it to begin with,
if your venue requires it.
Yeah, a lot of venues do require it
Which is smart. I love that.
Yeah, it is really smart.
Because there's other liabilities like people drinking.
Yes, especially those venues that allow you to bring in your own alcohol or own own bartender, own caterer.
Or have a fire pit.
Yes.
Or by a marsh.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Like someone drowns in standing water. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could happen.
What a way to go.
Yeah. It could happen. It really could. Yeah. It's I think that, you know, if the venue requires that, obviously you have to get it.
Right.
If the venue doesn't require it and none of your other, you know, vendors do, then I think it's up to you. You know, weigh the cost. You know, if you're having a pretty budget wedding, maybe it's not worth it for you. But if it's, you know, a really big wedding, probably worth it.
I know. Because it's not
it's not super expensive.
No, it's not at all. And if it is, I don't know if you're going through the right place.
Yeah.
Like they might be like, we don't really do this, but we'll insure you for exponentially more money than if you go somewhere else because it's a hassle for us to do.
Yeah.
If it's a lot, you should. And I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say a number because then everyone's going to be like, but Josie on Under the Veil said you could do it for $20.
You get those angry insurance agent calls.
F off. Yes. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so P.S. If you are a wedding vendor and you have either gone without a contract or copy and pasted one off of the internet, then you need to listen to this episode like you just did, but also listen to episode 28. We're going to wrap up this episode and on to the next. Thank you, Wynne, for coming on. And do you have any last imparting words about insurance or contracts?
No, just thank you so much for having me here today and for all of the future couples out there getting married. I know this seems like a lot. It is really important because it is an investment that you're making. But don't forget to enjoy the ride a little bit because it's
Kiss
easy.
right now.
Kiss right now. Do it. Kiss right now.
We'll wait.
We'll wait for you.
I can't hear anything.
Can't either.
We're assuming you kiss or you're by yourself.
Yes. But enjoy it. You know, things will go wrong. Your wedding day will still be extraordinary. You will still look stunning or handsome, and it will still be some of the best moments of your life.
Agreed. High five.
Yay.
Don't worry, YouTube. We're still here. We are going to roll right into the wedding vendor portion of our time with Wynne.
Is that episode 2? Or is that the second episode?
That is the second episode.
Okay, so I have a few things I want you to do before you do that.
Yeah. Stop moving. Oh, damn it.
Oh, because I look really tall. I know.
Also, I was like, I dropped down because it felt right. And then I was like, oh, am I behind the computer? Also, I watched like a old YouTube whatever of the Today Show or Good Morning America or one of those with like the Willy Wonka cast.
Yes.
And the guy that played the Oompa Loompa was on there. And I feel like we look comparable. You can look it up later. We don't because he's a man, but
okay.
Are we ready for episode number 28?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to save
sure
you. I
I'm here
want to
at
get your stuff
3:15.
saved for this one first.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me when, Ian.
You're still on YouTube, so you can entertain them if you want to.
Oh. Ha.
Also,
Josie doesn't tell me these things, guys. She's
entertaining.
She's like, oh, by the way, you're going to be on film. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Well, it's just YouTube.
First day I showed up here, I looked like I had died.
That's why I text Ian really quick. I was like,
Yeah.
say something happened because when he doesn't want to go on YouTube.
I was like, I am dying today. Thank you, Josie.
I put makeup on for you today.
Perfect.
Because
You look
usually,
beautiful.
last time I did not. And then I watched the video. I was like, okay, I should try. My friend Ellie, I just hung out with her, Ellie. And she was like, yeah, because I bet you feel like you really have to dress up and like look nice when you go to weddings because that's the industry you're in. And I was like, yeah, but I still don't own mascara. So is that a problem?
Old mascara, and I wear all black. And
I for sure wear sports bras.
Oh.
90% of my
I'm wearing a
life.
sports bra today.
Yes!
I'm like, why?
This is why we're
not?
friends.
Yeah. They're so much more comfortable.
I'm a human.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to safeguard myself from the vanities of society.
Yep.
But I know I still live in society. Hence why I shave my armpits and brush my teeth. That's just general health, brushing your teeth.
That is.
Like
a
that's
good
not really
thing.
for society. Like
Yeah.
halitosis, whatever
happens
to the best of us.
It can be avoided. Avoid it, guys.
Okay. Again, don't take any non-wedding tips from Josie.
But take all the wedding tips from her.
All the wedding ones, accurate.
Yes.
Non-wedding ones, that's okay if you have mascara
Yeah.
or paint your nails.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm going to abstain and wear little boy shoes and
That's perfect.
all of the things.
I'm wearing little boy shoes today.
You are?
Yeah, they're kind of like old man in Oxford, kind of
Yes.
Argyle.
Yeah.
You know?
They fit good.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're higher quality.
Yeah.
I need someone that like works at a sweatshop to tell me if there's a difference between girl shoes and boy shoes. Because I feel like the
Yeah.
cardboard is thicker or
I feel like there's something.
the rubber
Boys
is like...
definitely wear shoes
Right?
longer, so
Right?
maybe, or more regularly because they have less pairs.
See? And they last
Yeah.
just as long,
Yeah.
I think. My husband wears them until they're like literally holes in the bottom.
Oh.
That's, I'm just going to say, like, obviously I love him and I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
To get holes on the bottom of your shoes.
That
That's
is.
like third world country quality
It is.
of wearing shoes.
That is. Ben, my
Does
dad
not.
does that. Ben is a little bit of a fashion guru. However, he had these like Adidas shorts that were just really unfortunate, you know?
I should have
and
seen shorts coming. I
yeah,
should have seen that
it's
coming.
just it was just bad. Like those old school nylon Adidas shorts that are just a little too tight in all the wrong places. And when we were playing the newlywed game, it was like, what is the least favorite article of clothing that you own that your spouse can't stand?
Yeah.
And I answered for Ben, you know, and I was like, nothing. He loves everything that I have, which is exactly how he answered. And then Ben answered for me, and it was Adidas shorts, and I was like, spot on. Those are going in the friggin' trash. Get out of here. I can't stand it. Yeah.
Are they in the trash?
They are.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, he does still have his Adidas pants, though.
With the snaps down the side and the stripes. Yes.
Yes.
Dude, I feel like that's early 2000s.
Yeah. Oh,
Early
yeah.
2000s were a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from September 11th,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Aside from the tragic events in our history. Yeah.
Yes.
There's
but
some good fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of coming back. There's like some
Bell bottoms?
Yeah.
Or not bell bottoms, flared pants. I was
Third pants.
went
Yeah.
into the Mall of America for approximately 7 hours because it was date day.
Yeah.
And we were doing some hardcore people watching, like
Yes.
State Fair quality
I love it.
people watching.
Of course you
And
were.
There's some atrocious fashion, man.
Oh yeah.
Also, Mall of America is a good, like, mini melting pot.
It is.
Like, it's not quite super diverse. Or it's like North Minneapolis meets Minnetonka.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate, I feel like. Meets
Yeah.
Burnsville. It's just like a little.
It's kind of like you're taking a little bit out of every major city and putting it into one spot. You know, like
so obviously
got
there's a lot of
Americans,
Manhattan, but
yeah, like a little Brooklyn, a little like San Francisco, a little Washington D.C.,
some ghetto in there.
Yeah,
and then
kind of all over.
It's all over. But I was bringing that up because some people did not get memo about certain fashions not being like attractive on you.
Yeah,
like flared pants that are high waters with dirty sneakers.
Someone did try to sell me some of those this year, and I was
flare
like,
pants
that are high waters.
Why?
Yeah, apparently it's like a super trendy thing, and I
well,
just
like
couldn't.
Boyfriend jeans rolled up, but not
but like flared with like the stringies hanging down on the bottoms.
Okay, I flared like nobody's business, and every time I look at pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, Oompa Loompa. Look it up.
They could be cute, but in certain circumstances.
Okay, we are ready.
Okay.
Hi, Winnie.
Hello.
I would say welcome back, but it's not appropriate. Welcome back to the podcast recording.
Thank you.
Let's jump right in.
Okay.
And why is a contract with or from, if you're a wedding vendor, why is it important to have a contract?
First little tidbit, just in case you vendors didn't listen to episode 27, anything that I say on the podcast is for educational purposes. Nothing can be taken as legal advice because I don't know your particular situation or your business. But if you want to call me, happy to talk through it. Contracts.
Link in the show notes.
Link in the show notes. Perfect. Thank you, Josie. Contracts, why it's important. Okay, guys, I work with a lot of you on a very regular basis. And couples have an idea in their head of exactly what their vendor is going to give them. And it oftentimes does not quite align with what it is that they're actually purchasing.
Skewed or muddled.
Yeah.
It's like based on like their aunt who got married in 1980s advice.
Yep.
J-Lo.
Yep.
And also that show Say Yes to the Dress.
Yep. Say Yes to the Dress. And all of the, stories of the celebrity weddings and, the
You're
magnificent
probably not a celebrity
everything.
getting
Right.
married.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
so,
an automatic qualification.
Right.
I'm getting married. Oh my God, you're so famous. Paparazzi.
Right. 100%. So, having that contract is really important. One, to protect yourself, just in case, you do ultimately get sued or threatened to be sued, which unfortunately does happen quite a bit.
Or just general complaints.
Yeah, general complaints, absolutely. But really like laying out those expectations, avoiding the ambiguities, and making it crystal clear exactly what you're providing so that they are on the same page as you.
When you're providing it, how you provide it.
Like
I don't work Sunday, Mondays.
Yeah.
It's on my contract. I don't work Sunday, Mondays. So if a client was ever like, you won't meet with us on Monday, you're the worst, we want a refund, I'd be like, actually, remember I said it in our meeting when I went over my contract with you that I don't work Sunday, Mondays. I have to spend it obsessed with my husband, faces glued together.
Yeah.
That's my life.
Yeah.
And you opted for that.
Yeah. You chose me.
Yes. Okay. So what if I'm not registered as like an LLC, or I don't know if people should do S corp, but do I still need a contract? Should I be concerned about like the safety of my business?
Yeah, first of all, if you're not registered as a business, go register as a business.
Do it.
It's not that expensive to do. I'm happy to show you how to do it. It's really important. A lot of people are under the guise that if I don't make X number of dollars, then I don't need to be an LLC. That's complete crap. So the purpose of an LLC is to protect your personal, essentially your personal belongings, your personal finances.
Your house.
Your house.
Your car.
Yeah.
Your husband, or I have a husband.
Yeah.
Your husband's like financial.
Yeah.
stability.
Your partner. Like your partner's, salary, all of those things. And it's a little bit crazy to me when I hear accountants tell clients, until you're a certain dollar amount, don't worry about it, because you're really leaving yourself in a vulnerable situation. So registering as an LLC, you should do it. You just should.
Also, when you're first starting out, that is when you're most
vulnerable.
I feel like, yes, because you aren't quite sure with what you offer, how you offer it, or what kind of client you want to attract, or how you're going to deliver your services. So there is maybe like a little more ambiguity. I'm thinking about my like first full service client, and none of this was like explained beforehand, but afterwards my client was really disappointed because I didn't rake leaves off of the porch. Well, I never said like anything like that's not something I do. I just assumed like my job is a wedding planner, but they never like thought that that wasn't part of the expectations. Now most people I tell that to, they're like, that's insanity. Why do you have to be raking leaves off of a porch at a venue? But for that client, that was really important to them. And that like blame, the finger fell on me, you know, and because I was like, I don't know, should I explain that to people? I don't do that.
Right.
The answer is yes. So I say that like, this is not really, I'm not really here to like clean your venue. And then I'm praise God about clients that are like, don't clean up at my wedding. That's not what you're there for. I'm like, oh, ideal client. Thank you.
That is an ideal client. That really is. But no, and I know, you know, some of you are sitting out there and you're thinking, oh, no, my accountant told me to be an S Corp or, you know, a sole proprietor, blah, blah, blah. Every time that a client tells me that their accountant says to be one thing, I call the accountant and I talk to the accountant. And never have I ever spoken with an accountant who said, I meant they should incorporate as an S Corp or a sole proprietorship. What they mean is that's how you should be taxed, which you can elect
separate
as an LLC.
Taxing is separate.
Taxing is separate than the actual formation of your business. Yes.
Separate.
Yeah, it is separate. And regardless as to whether or not you have an LLC or you are just a sole proprietor, which, again, sole proprietor does not protect you whatsoever. And if you were ever in a lawsuit, your personal assets could be on the line. You need to have a contract. Absolutely. There isn't really a situation in which you shouldn't have a contract as a wedding vendor. The emotions are too high around weddings and the damages are too potentially astronomical, and you just really don't want to get into a situation where somebody says they have to redo the entire wedding because you know
effed it up. It's you. Your finger point because the leaves weren't raked. We have to redo it. That didn't happen. Well, isn't a contract like really expensive? Can't I just maybe copy and paste from the internet or have like a simple one pager?
This is definitely just like a question to bait me because Josie knows the answer to
Can't
this. The answer is no.
I found one on like I don't even LegalZoom. And it's like it looked like it could be made for wedding planners. Like the terminology seemed fine.
So first of all, the way that we've structured the Creatives Council, you're not really going to be spending much more if you have a custom contract written for you, as many people who've worked with us know. Second of all, there are certain clauses that really do need to be in a contract that oftentimes are missing out of those contracts that we've seen purchased or downloaded from the internet. You know, we've had people buy those contracts and want them revised, and it's ultimately more expensive to have us revise those contracts than just to write you a new contract.
Right.
So
start from scratch.
Yeah, and one of the reasons is that, you know, those are written by lawyers, but for the general public across the entire country. There are very state-specific laws. There are also industry-specific things in your community that are really important to know and important to include in your contract. And there's no way that the lawyer who's writing this contract that's supposed to be sold to everybody in the country can know your industry or state-specific things. Additionally, a lot of those contracts put more burden on you as a vendor than you need to have. And also, as you know, Josie, and as many of my clients know, you know, you're going to get clients who don't like certain language in a contract. And if you don't have anybody to call to ask what that's about, is that instrumental? Can you get rid of it? It makes it really hard to enter into a good client-vendor relationship.
And I think, like in my case, my former business partner had access to a lawyer who drew up our contract. But I think when I brought it to you, you were like, well, like, because it wasn't from someone who had experience in the wedding industry. I mean, I'm really grateful to you for being a wedding planner and a lawyer, because then when I'm explaining it, I can justify the terminology and what's in the contract even more so, because I'm like, my lawyer was a wedding planner, so she has seen it all and she understands, and that's why this, and that's why this is in here, and that's why this is in here. And we reviewed it together. Like, I maybe could not say my contract word for word, but I know it's in it. Like, I could explain it without looking at it. And it's 6 pages, because 6 is my favorite number. That's not why. But I think even if someone has a contract, but they just are feeling uncomfortable, or I say you should be friends with your contract. So if you're not friends with your contract, they could always bring it to you, and you could red line it.
I will red line away,
and make it stronger and better, and so you can be more comfortable and confident.
Yeah. Absolutely.
About protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how this is kind of like general business stuff. How do I get clients to sign my contract?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is they're not going to work with you if they don't sign the contract. And that's kind of a hardline policy that you have to implement. So you don't really want to be a bully and say, sign this or I'm out, peace. But, it's really kind of one of those where, most of our vendor clients will have, kind of a policy where they'll hold open a date, for a week, 2 weeks, depending if it's off season and the inquiries haven't started rolling in yet. And it will be, the date will be secured once the deposit, or once the contract is signed and the deposit has been processed.
Yeah. And I dummy it down, and I just explain, like, at the end of my consultation, I'm like, I'm going to go over the contract. And then after I go over the contract, I'm like, here's how this is going to go. If you decide to move forward, I'll hold your wedding day for a week. So you have a week to decide. I'll check in with you at the end of that week. If you decide to move forward, you sign, I sign, you pay, I start working. And I just do this so then they know, like, I'm not going to do anything until you've signed both parties. Yes. And you've paid the deposit. Yeah. I'm not going to start because, hello, you guys, you haven't been paid yet. Like, why would you start working for someone who hasn't paid you? And actually in that contract, it says that they need to pay you. Yeah. I'm not one to, like, enforce late payment fees because I've never had to. I never had to. Yeah. But, so it's like if I just say it like that, and I've already kind of said that there are late fees when I went through my contract, it's done. Yeah. It's easy. And if you can be confident in it, then you just do it, and you're like, oh yeah, but if this is my contract, but if you don't want to sign it, like, I totally understand, like, I know it's like, but we could just, like, go without it, and whenever you want to pay me, like, by the wedding day, it would be fine.
Like, don't do that, guys. Definitely don't do that.
Like, what store or restaurant or anything in your life have you interacted with that
would do
behaves
that.
Like that? Yeah. When you go to Kmart, they're not like, oh, but you don't have to pay. You can just pay on your, like, way out next month. Yeah. It's like, no, you pay and then you get the merchandise. Right. The end.
And as a wedding vendor, I mean, there's a lot of people inquiring for the same date, especially those really popular dates. Right. And that's legitimate. You can't turn down business because you're waiting on somebody else.
What if they don't book?
Exactly.
Now you just missed out on potential others. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so how long should I keep past clients' contracts? I'm actually, like, legitimately interested in this.
Yeah, that's a good one. So
forever?
No, not forever. So for most contractual legal claims in Minnesota, you have up to 6 years to sue.
So easy to remember.
Yes.
Favorite number.
6. That's your number, girl. It's your number. So what I would say, you don't have to keep the physical forms. Yeah. But scan them into your computer and keep them for 6 years.
Okay, cool. That's easy. Yeah. And how can I know this question also, ensure that I never really need to use my contract, like fall back on it or be like, well, as stated in the contract, article number 4.
Yes. Yeah. So assuming that we're talking about enforcing the contract so that you never have to enforce the contract.
Maybe preventative actions.
Yes. The preventative actions, the number one key thing, even above walking your clients through the contract, which is also essential. And I think you're probably one of the only vendors in the entire industry who does that.
Well, has fun with it.
Yes.
Like, it's fun.
Yes. Yeah. I think you might be alone there, but that's okay.
Damn it.
I love it. I love that you do that. Is to really maintain a good relationship with your clients. You know, they are going to test you at times. There are going to be days where you are like, did I really just meet with them for the 7th time for 3 hours and they're still figuring out their freaking colors? You know, Josie's sweating because it happens. Be patient. You know, this is so foreign to them. We do this so regularly that we know that, you know, oh my goodness, if the venue burns down, we'll figure it out. You know, to us, that there's always an answer. To them, it always ends in catastrophe. And so keeping your patience with them and maintaining that relationship. Relationships can go awry. You know, we've seen it happen with the couples. We've seen it happen a lot with the parents. And, you know, I do, you know, walk them through the contract, you know, and make sure that, you know, go back and listen to episode 27 because we talked about a lot of important language. 26.
I know. There's an episode in between. 27 is best bits of season 2.
Oh, sorry. Episode 26. Go back and listen to that because there are some really important topics in there about the clauses that you need to have.
Right.
But do make sure that you have language in there that says that only the people who have signed this contract can talk to you about it.
Yes. Or make changes on the day of.
Yeah, definitely. Changes, limiting your liability, intellectual property, artistic release. Those are really, really important things. And essentially, if you can have a really great contract on the front end that you walk through with your client in detail and then make sure that you do your best to maintain a good working relationship. If you have to enforce it, ultimately you did your due diligence in explaining the contract to them so they can't say, well, I didn't understand this.
Right.
And
tough. You signed it also.
Like, if they signed it, they signed it.
Millennials,
But
keep reading in life.
Yes.
And by that, I mean read contracts that you sign.
Yes. Please read them. But yeah, I think those are kind of your main things.
Yeah. I think communicating clearly is really important too.
Really important.
You know, like if you have a client that's saying like, or instead of setting boundaries, right? So if you have a client that's continually emailing you at 7 p.m., don't respond if that's past your business hours. Because that sets the tone that I know you're not working right now, but when you get this, here's my question.
100%.
You know? And then if they are hounding you and then they switch to texting you, still don't respond. And then when you are in business hours, you can remind them, hey, I just want to let you know my best form of communication is X.
Yeah.
This is when we'll meet next. This is how I work or whatever. And don't feel like you're being mean by doing that. They don't know. They're dealing with like a dozen vendors at least that all have different ways of doing business. Yeah. Not all of them are actually professional.
Right.
Right. So they are just used to texting Tony the DJ. And so they thought that they could text you. Yeah. No, they're not doing it maliciously.
Right. And a lot of times too, there's somebody else behind it, like a mom that's like, I need the answer to this. I need the answer to this. Please give it to me right now. Why haven't they responded to you?
Yes.
So just,
So have your mom listen to this episode also.
Yeah, please do.
I mean, brides and grooms. Yeah. No, you're not listening. Anyways. Yeah. Okay. What about if a client calls off their wedding or has another reason to ask for a refund where a refund is not warranted? How should vendors handle that besides immediately calling you?
Yeah.
Or texting you. I mean, emailing.
Facebook. Call, text, Facebook,
Instagram,
LinkedIn,
show
Instagram,
up at your house.
Whatever. Yeah, show up at my house. Why not? I'll welcome you. You know, if a client is asking for a refund where a refund is otherwise not warranted, I think that the best first step is for you to evaluate the situation and to kind of look at why they're asking for the refund. As a wedding planner, I've certainly had situations where I am not obligated to give a refund, but, you know, the situation warranted it.
Right.
You know, I was,
maybe someone got laid off.
Yeah.
They're calling off their reception. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Like, or, you know, like you're friends with the bride or groom and, they're buying a house and it was kind of unexpected and, oh my God, they're way in over their head with this wedding and they just can't afford it. I mean,
maybe all the more reason to have good financial stability in your business and not just spend money as it comes in, but like put away like money just for operating expenses. Right. So if that happened, it could come out of that.
Then you're
pot.
okay. Yeah. And I think, have it in your contract pretty crystal clear that there is literally no reason why you would have to give them back the money. Right. But then you can make exceptions based on the people. Right. And you can kind of play the good guy, because there are situations that warrant it. Yeah. There are absolutely situations that warrant it. And, you could say, hey, I've already done X amount of work, so I'll give you back X number of dollars. I can't give you back the full refund, and you can kind of play around with it. But, make sure that in the contract, you're not required to do it. But then, have a heart when you're working and not everything is purely business oriented
or about money.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have those conversations via phone call. Remember that thing called a telephone? Pick it up. Josie's calling you. But have a phone call with your client so then you're not confusing like what the emotions are. Yeah. Because maybe they're like really chill about it. Maybe they're pissed. Yeah. And they're pissed about something else, and you can just be that little shoulder for them to cry on. And they're like, oh, okay, never mind. We'll keep you. Yeah. You don't know. You don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. And there's always some problem solving to be done. And, if they keep demanding money and it isn't warranted and they're being really pushy or their mom is threatening to call all the news channels and defame you and destroy you all over every review page that exists, then let's chat. I mean, we can start with, like an email that makes it sound like you really know what you're doing, ghost write an email for you. And if that doesn't work, we can take it from there. But, I've really, really seen, my eyes have been incredibly opened to how many people try to take advantage of small businesses, especially wedding vendors, because at the end of the wedding they have this like hit of reality of how much money did I just spend? We need to figure out how to get some of it back. Yep. And then they go after these wedding vendors, which just makes my blood boil in most cases because it just isn't fair. Right. But they do it. And so if that happens, we'll chat. Yep. We'll figure it out.
It'll be okay. And if you're currently going through that problem, head to the show notes immediately. Wynne's webpage will be located in a link at the bottom under resources. Email her, take a deep breath, wait for her response.
Yes. Yeah.
Which will be in 24 to 48 hours.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. High five to the end of this episode. Yes. If you had not already previously listened to episode 26, we both implore you to listen. Yep. And that's it.
All right.
That's high five.
I love it.
That's a week high five. Do it again.
That's better.
All right. See you later, YouTube.